We are talking with Nick Kalikas, MMA oddsmaker and consultant for DSI Sportsbook, and Matt Manzella from CageReligion.com, host of Cage Religion Radio, previewing UFC 147. It's going to be held in Brazil, and there's three matchups on the main card: Brazilian versus Brazilian. My favorite is Godofredo. That's the guy who I like. All of these lines have decent-sized favorites. They're all about minus 300. So, Nick, which of these favorite lines or dog lines do you think will attract some action?
Well, it's tough to say. I'm expecting a little bit of dog action, maybe on Sergio Moraes, because his submission game is pretty strong from what we've seen, even before the Tough show, actually. I think he was more impressive pre-Tough than he was maybe on the show, but a lot of people have seen his takedowns and what he's capable of on the ground, so he's definitely going to be dangerous. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Sergio getting bet, although I do favor Caesar in this fight, so I'm not going to let the public come in on that side as strong. I think Caesar's probably going to be a little bit too much for Sergio to handle, and I do believe the hype around him. So, you know, it's an interesting final because Sergio's coming in as a replacement over for Daniel because he's injured too, so it's kind of thrown together last minute. But it is an interesting matchup. So I think the public's going to probably bet the dog a little bit more there. When you're seeing Ronnie Moreno Bezerra actually here listed according to the odds, and your buddy Godofredo Castro.
Godofredo.
Okay, well, I'm actually expecting the public to come in that way, you know.
Right.
He's undefeated. I just haven't been that impressed. I think Ronnie Jason's a little bit more well-rounded. He's going to be too much for him everywhere. And I think that your buddy Godofredo is going to be, again, butchered it, but he's going to be maybe a little bit shell-shocked. You know, I think his best chance to win this is obviously getting it to the floor. But even if he goes to the floor, Jason's going to be ready. He's going to be game. So I think it's a bad fight. That's why you're seeing the line at 3-1. And I'm probably thinking that the public's going to bet the dog a little bit more here as well. So that's what we want. But again, competitive matchups. And we have to say too, lately, you know, the dogs have been coming through on The Ultimate Fighter. So I think that's going to be fresh in the betting public's mind as well.
Really?
So they're going to say, man, these lines are kind of high. The dogs have been winning. So we might see the lines drop a little bit, going towards the dogs a little bit more, but you know, I'm kind of hopeful for that, honestly, because I think both favorites are going to probably come through in this fight.
Wow, that's so opposite from the way the books usually are. You usually expect the books to want the public to pound the big favorites and for the dogs to come in. But
it all depends on, you know, every matchup, every card is a little bit different. And in most cases, you're right. I actually prefer getting action on the favorites more times than not. But in this particular case, for these two matchups, I do think the favorites are going to probably come through. So I wouldn't mind a little bit more action on the dogs here.
All right, Matt Manzella, are there any of these 6 lines that you think are attractive?
You know what, Sergio Moraes, I would actually favor him in that fight. All the other ones, I think the fighters that everyone's kind of expecting to win, and the other two are, in my opinion, going to end up winning. So I don't really see too many upsets going on there. But yeah, I do like Sergio Moraes by upset.
You think Godofredo has no chance?
It's not that he doesn't have a chance. I just don't think he'll pull it off this time.
Yeah, I hear you. And how about Yuri minus 270? Is that attractive to you?
You know what? That's a tough one because Akron Diaz, like he's making his debut, so the casual fans don't really know a lot about him. They haven't seen about a lot of him, but he's a fantastic fighter. But again, Luke Alcantara, he's been there, been in the spotlight, been on the big show, been on the big stage. Yeah. And I think that'll play into this fight. I think the experience and just his overall comfort level in the octagon will let him prevail.
A little interesting side note for this fight, Akron Diaz was actually supposed to be on this season of The Ultimate Fighter Brazil, but the UFC pulled him from the season before the season started, obviously, and signed him to a 3-fight contract beforehand. Yeah. And they stuck him on a main card. So what's that tell you? I think that tells you that they, and again, what Matt just said about Yuri, man, he's such a phenomenal fighter right now. They're basically putting him in the spotlight because he's so talented. He's on a roll. I mean, we've seen this guy capable of stuffing good wrestlers in the past and just brutalizing people on the feet. He's got nasty ground and pound. He's game on the floor. But why are they bringing Akron Diaz in against him? I think they think it's going to be a war and it's going to be a great fight, a competitive matchup. So this line might be a little high, honestly. And if the public does start betting the dog, you're going to see this drop pretty drastic. Because I think even though Yuri does have a solid edge, as Matt pointed out, he does have the experience of being in the UFC. He does have that advantage of taking on good grapplers, good wrestlers, and basically neutralizing them and having his way with them. But I think in this particular matchup, at the level that Akron's at right now, and he's going to have a slight size advantage too, it's going to be interesting. So
Yeah.
this is a fight that maybe the public's going to come in on the favorite, but I would tread cautiously, definitely, because I think it's a fight that probably Yuri should win, but it could possibly go either way. I mean, it's going to be competitive for sure.
So Nick Kalikas, out of these six lines, if you had to take one of them to bet your own money with right now, which would you choose?
Man, they're tough. They're, again, something that you wouldn't go crazy and bet the house on, but I probably think that Ronnie Jason Bezerra, if I'm pronouncing it right again,
Yes.
I think he does have the edge, and he just should be a little bit too much all overall. So it is leading a steep price, 3-1. Hopefully the public's going to drop it for us. If they do, maybe that's probably the best bet out of those three.
All right. Okay, thanks. And now let's move on and talk about the main marquee fight on UFC 148, Anderson Silva, okay?
Sure,
All
sounds
right,
good.
Thanks.